So here am I with the topic, what is life's purpose? It's not an easy topic. Life is an enigmatic thing with mystical dimensions. God has given us a free will, but we know that this free will operates in a framework and forces which are outside of our control, which is our qadar. But I will give you a simple answer today. And inshallah, I'll give you a simple answer with a very broad scope. You will have to soak that answer in and see what it means to you. And that is the enigma of life. This is a beautiful quotation from Rumi, which is telling us what you seek is seeking you. That gets you halfway right there. That takes you halfway through the enigma. But before I get any deeper, let me make a disclaimer. This is a spiritual perspective from a fellow seeker. I don't claim that I have sorted out life's purpose. Every individual is empowered with their own purpose through the urgings of their own faith and their own obligations. And need I tell you today, with the war going on, that no two sets of circumstances are the same. Who am I to preach to a war-torn widow or orphan as to what is the purpose of life? So the what of purpose of life is very subjective, depending upon what your obligations are, where you are, what is the framework of your qadar. It is our qadar that we are sitting here today, and it is someone else's qadar that they are sitting in a war-torn region. So instead of going to the what, I'm going to start with the why of the purpose and its rationale. Okay? A rationale is a very important thing. In law, you always try to state what is the rationale behind the law. That makes it easy for you to follow the law or to follow the requirement. For example, if I tell you that this speed law is 25 miles per hour, that is the law. But if I give you the rationale that it is to save lives of children that may be dashing across the street, that gives you the motivation why you want to follow that law. And part of my disclaimer again, this is a perspective from a moving train. It is aimed at the heart. And I hope, like I said, to submit a simple answer to you today. But what is God's purpose of us? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. I have not created the jinn and mankind except to worship me. Now, except to worship me, that means the sole purpose of our existence is to worship. Clearly, we have to redefine or understand what worship means. Because worship cannot mean our 5 times salat exclusively. It cannot mean the 5 pillars exclusively. Otherwise, we'd be in violation all the time. And God does not task the soul beyond its capacity. Ya'budun means to serve, to worship, to adore, and so on. Okay? So look at this verse this way. I have not created the jinn and mankind except to serve me. And I'm not going to throw a word and not expand upon it, and we'll get to what servitude is. But the point I'm trying to make is that worship of God is more than the 5 rituals, or howsoever many rituals we go through. So let us ask the question, what does God want from our worship, from our servitude, from our gratitude? Ever thought about it? Nothing. Because He is Al-Ghani. He is independent. He is Al-Mughni, the one who enriches. He is Al-Karim, the most generous. Al-Qayyum, the timeless. Al-Razaq, who sustains all of us. Al-Wajid, literally the finder, but from whom nothing is absent. And Al-Aziz, the Almighty. He lacks nothing, and nothing can be added or subtracted from God. So let's get one thing clear at the outset. By worshiping God, you are not enhancing God. But He does warn us of the consequences of a misdirected free will and qadar. There's nothing we can add or subtract from God. And Luqman says the same thing to his son. He says, the Quran says, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِلَّهِ وَمَنْ يَشْكُرْ فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. We did impart to Luqman his wisdom. Be grateful unto Allah. Whoever is grateful to Him, he is only grateful for his own soul. And who has been ungrateful, it is to his own diminishment. For Allah is ever self-sufficient, ever praised. Which is the point I'm trying to get to. The purpose of worship is for our own enrichment and enlightenment. So what is enlightenment and free will? To live is simply to be born. That's one milestone, which we don't have any control over. It is pure 100% qadar. Drink, eat, want, take, grow, cry, laugh, and somewhere the I emerges, my identity. We feel, we covet, we assert, and the me emerges, me. We become territorial, this is mine. We possess, we procreate, and then we start losing things, we fear change, we hang on until we go to the final qadar, which is death. These are our 2 milestones. And this is Nafs al-Ammara, which we were discussing a couple of days ago. This is, and please add, this is absolutely not a comprehensive list. Add more to it. Okay, I was running out of slide space. Okay. But one elects to seek, to read, to express, to question. I think Dr. Tareen is going to be happy that read is right up there. Question, reason, reject, embrace, ponder, reflect, introspect, care, love, respect, give, empathize, be considerate, just, compassionate, equitable. Sorry, I'm reading this slide, but these words are important. Be truthful and speak truth to power. Stand up against oppression. Need I remind you of that? Persevere with pain and loss. Keep faith in testing times. Be conscious of the Supreme Being. Right now, this is, up till here, this is a secular slide, okay? Be conscious of the Supreme Being. This is not just Islam, this is other people also. Remaining conscientious of your obligations and duties. Gain a proper perspective of life and humanity. And never forget the 2 milestones of qadar, to be born and to die. Be honest, truthful, acknowledge the rights acknowledge the right and rightness of others, okay? Serve a higher purpose with an inspired sense of right and wrong. There's an important point here. The second part is free will. None of these can you outsource. This is something that you have to experience yourself and something you will be held accountable for yourself. So the first part is our impulse or instinct. The second part is spiritual enrichment or enlightenment. Now, don't be like those people who said that we are the chosen ones. Everyone who belongs to an established faith is somewhere on the second set of ideals or second set of, and these are not milestones, these are pursuits, these are not endpoints. But where you are in these pursuits is what assigns you your ranks, our ranks, our darajat, as to where we are in these pursuits. There's no end to these pursuits. And notice one thing here. To Harun's point, there is nothing material in the second box here. There's no materiality or material success in here. Our challenge, my last slide said to know right from wrong. But here is another irony. Our challenge is not to know right from wrong. We mostly know that. We are sufficiently warned. We can quibble over the color or the hue of the cow, like the Quran gives us that example. Hazrat Musa asked them, they tell Hazrat Musa to ask Allah, what color should the cow be? Then he comes back with a question, then they have a second one and a third one. That is reluctance. They knew what the ask was. And the Quran says, Balil insanu ala nafsihi basira. Rather, man is ever with insight into his own soul. I'm going to posit, I'm going to submit that when we do a wrong, we know inside that we are doing a wrong. Otherwise, what's the point of accountability? You are accountable because you know that you are doing a wrong. So the challenge and the opportunity, with every challenge there's the opportunity, is to change our mindsets. The change that results from within is what changes attitude. And when your attitude changes, then it's a fundamental change. Otherwise, it is mere carrot and sticks. You can train an animal. Give him a carrot, and he will do what you want him to do. If he doesn't do it, the stick is there. As soon as his trainer is gone, 3 months later, the animal is back to where he was. It's only when you change mindsets that you change attitudes. It is only when you change the motivation or you have the right passion that your work or your labor, instead of being a chore, becomes something that you look forward to. Now, a lot of talking, but I'm getting to my simple answer, okay? But before I get there, let me go into the 2 milestones of qadar that we talked about and the meaning of worship or servitude. The first milestone goads us to believe. The last of the 2 milestones, death, goads us to believe. Think about it, if there was no death, there would be no belief. There would be no religion. Death is the gateway to ghaib. What makes me believe is the unknown. It is the unknown of ghaib that makes me believe. The Quran says at the very beginning, अलिफ लाम मीम ज़ालिकल किताबु ला रैब फ़ीहि हुदल लिल मुत्तक़ीन अल्लज़ीना युमिनूना बिल ग़ैब. It is for people who believe in the unknown. But what happens after death is a matter of faith. I believe one way, a Hindu believes another way, a Christians probably believe like us, Parsis probably believe another way. So the differences between us are about the unknowns, not about life. When you meet another human being, you have to remember that the differences between us are not about what we think about our lives, but it is what we think about the unknown. We believe that death is the end of time and not of being. It's not that we are done with, it's simply the end of time, no more free will. You're done exercising your free will, now you're in timelessness. The point I want to make is in these last two bullets. Even God holds his accountability until we are there in ghaib. We should ask ourselves, should we pass judgment on others' faith in this lifetime? Now, this was about the last milestone about us, the last milestone of Qadr. Now, before I get to the first milestone of Qadr, our special beginning, let me condition us. Special things can be beyond the mind's grasp. For example, how big is the cosmos? Someone will say, well, it's 93 trillion years or whatever. That's a number. Have you grasped it? The number will numb the mind. And don't let anyone tell you that they know that they understand that number or its precision. But the realization will awaken the heart. What is the measure of God? The Quran says, Ma qadrullaha haqqa bi qadrihi. Okay. What is the measure of God? The mind dare not state that. It is for the heart, which gets filled with awe. And then this is this beautiful ayah from the Quran. It is not the eyes, but the heart that goes blind. And this here is my favorite picture. See that arrow over there? That is the earth. This picture is taken, you can see from the rings, from the vicinity of Saturn. Okay? Ask yourself, by the way, the moon is rotating somewhere around the earth. You can't see it. What materiality are we going to take from there? Where are we and where is our materiality from that perspective? Now, before I go to our first qadr of birth, I still want to condition us. And this condition is coming from Rumi, who warns us not to minimize the Quran. And he says, in the Quran, do not thou, O son, regard only the exterior. The devil regards Adam as naught but clay. Which is saying, do not just look at the form. Iblis looked at Adam's form of clay, and he said, this guy, I am better than him. The Rumi is telling us, look for the essential meaning inside the Quran. Do not look at its form. And then, now look at this. And don't try to fit this verse into any box. فَإِذَا سَوَيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. So when I give him form and I have blown into him of my spirit, fall you all before him in prostration. فَقَعُوا can also come from waqia, which is instantiate, register that moment in time. This could have also been translated as, then register that moment for him in submission. Okay. Only after he has blown his spirit into the form does he ask the angels to prostrate. There is something of every human which is created, which is the clay, and something which is eternal. Something of every human. Now, remember I told you one thing a few slides ago. I said some things are not meant to be outsourced. You have to experience them yourself. Don't outsource this verse. Reflect on it and don't try to put it into a box. But take it to heart every day. When you size yourself up, when you take your measure, or when you measure another human being. This is your beginning qadr of every human being. And of course, Rumi will not fit this into a box, and he goes ecstatic. And this is such a beautiful poem from him. I was searching for this poem, and all I would get was Coleman Barks. Eventually, I found this one from Bernard Lewis. It's called Only Breath, His Spirit. And when Rumi comes across that verse, he says, "What can I do, Muslims? I do not know myself. I am neither Christian nor Jew, neither Magian nor Muslim. I am not from the east or west, not from land or sea, not from the shafts of nature." That means not from the trenches of the earth, not from the spheres of this firmament, not of the earth, not of water, not of air, not of fire. I am not from the highest heaven, not from this world, not from existence, not from being. I am not from India, not from China, not from Bulgar, not from Saksin, not from the realm of two Iraqs, not from the land of Khorasan. I am not from the world, not from beyond, not from heaven, not from hell. I am not from Adam, not from Eve, not from paradise, and not from Ridwan. My place is placeless, my trace is traceless, no body, no soul. I am from the soul of souls. I have chased out duality, lived the two worlds as one. I seek one, I know one. One I see, one I call. He is the first, he is the last. He is the outer, he is the inner. Huwal zahiru wal batiru wal awwalu wal akhiru. Beyond he and he is, I know no other. I am drunk from the cup of love. The two worlds have escaped me. Rumi is not denying religion. He is, when Shaitan looked at the human being, he saw clay. When Rumi looks at a human being, he sees his spirit. Now, with that sense of humanity, let us move further. Let us come back to the issue of Ma khalaqtul jinna wal insa illa liya'buduni. So, how can we be in a state where all we are doing is in His worship and servitude? We all know, I like to call this the vertical plane. Our zikr, our namaz, our tahajjud, where we are one-on-one with God, walking and praying to Him. We are worshipping God on a vertical, I like to now call it an internal plane. Okay. And on the horizontal plane, the earth, where we are interacting with each other, where we are transacting with each other. Okay? This is the plane of servitude to find the face of God. If you don't believe me, here. وَمَا تُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ اللَّهِ وَمَا تُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ اللَّهِ. And you do not truly give unless it is in the quest of the face of Allah. Okay. And you will find face of Allah comes like 5 or 6 or 7 times in the Quran. Most of the time it comes in the context of giving to fellow human beings. Okay? That it is through our service to each other that we are pursuing the face of Allah. And again, don't put that beautiful term in a box. All I can tell you is that the face of Allah is not 2 eyes and a nose and nothing physical. This is for you to take to heart. This is for us to take to heart. And I'm going to come to a hadith that will illustrate some more what the face of Allah is. But what I want to say, that these planes are not mutually exclusive. If you are worshiping God, your worship must translate into love for His creation. Otherwise, there's a disconnect in our worship. And the same is true the other way, that if we are altruistic on this plane that we exist, it must point us to our common supreme creator. So on the horizontal plane, what is the purpose of life? I'm still not there to my simple suggestion. I'm still, drilling in are still making an access to it. Express yourself the best you can as a mother, father, son, daughter, spouse, friend, neighbor, witness, trustee, writer, doctor, scientist, engineer, social worker, but also as a human being. And do it with ikhlas. Why? Because you're doing it for the face of God. But there are pitfalls in any journey. And what are the pitfalls in this journey? I took this from Fritjof Schuon. He is a 20th century Sufi scholar. He's probably the most well-read and the most difficult to read of people when it comes to Islamic spirituality, but he's considered amongst all these converts, Martin Lings and Lex Hixon and so on, they really considered him their sheikh. He says the pitfalls for the soul are a false life. What is a false life? A false life is a life with a passion that engenders suffering. If my passion, and I'm being simplistic here, is gambling, I'll probably engender a lot of suffering for my family or the ones close to me. But he says, what is a false death? If you die without your heart having received God. He says, egoism which hardens the heart and separates it from God and His mercy. So for him, Jahannam is being separated from God's mercy. It's not just believing, it is also acting and doing. What is a false activity? It is dissipation which casts the soul into an insatiable vortex and makes it forget God. And a false, you can't rest either, or a false rest or passivity, the weakness and laziness which deliver up the soul without resistance to the countless solicitations of the world. If you are an idle mind, the world has many solicitations for us. Islamic spirituality is about ikhlas. It counters all those pitfalls by sincerity of thought, sincerity of purpose, and sincerity of action. Why? Because it's about the face of God. Because your undertaking is in devotion to God. So, what is the simple answer to the question, what is the purpose of life? Ready? Finding Allah present. I've said this many times before, but today I have the luxury of explaining what I mean by it. It means to be always aware of His omnipresence. Sounds like Sufi talk? Let me give you a beautiful illustration. This is the hadith, Sahih Muslim 2569, and I copied it. The translation is also from sunnah.com. Allah the Exalted and Glorious would say on the day of resurrection, O son of Adam, I was sick, but you did not visit me. He would say, Ya Rab, how could I visit thee, whereas thou art Rabbul Alameen? Thereupon he would say, did you know that such and such servant of mine was sick, but you did not visit him? And were you not aware of this, that if you had visited him, you would have found me by him? The word is found. I'm not inventing it. I've highlighted it. La wajattani indahu. Okay. Second one. O son of Adam, I asked food from you, but you did not feed me. He would say, Ya Rab, how could I feed thee, whereas thou art Rabbul Alameen? Didn't you know that such and such servant of mine, he said, didn't you know that such and such servant of mine asked food from you, but you did not feed him? And were you not aware that if you had fed him, you would have found him by my side? Found, I'm not inventing the word. Look at the Arabic. O son of Adam, I asked drink from you, but you did not provide me. He would say, Ya Rab, how could I provide thee, whereas thou art Rabbul Alameen? Thereupon he would say, such and such servant of mine asked you for a drink, but you did not provide him. And had you provided him with drink, you would have found him near me. Are we understanding the meaning of finding Allah present? Well, there's more. But before I get to that more, a side note about humanity. This is from the Bible. And Hafiz Saab has talked about it earlier. This is from Matthew. Look how similar they are. For I was hungry and you didn't feed me. Okay. Look where the problem starts. The problem starts I was sick and you didn't. Problem starts in 45. And he will answer. Now here instead of God, they are saying Hazrat Isa. Okay? And that I'll tell you the truth when you refuse to help the least of my brothers and sisters. But remember what I said before. our differences across faiths are about the unknown and not about life. In the Quran says that Hazrat Isa will stand and tell, God will ask him, what did he say? And he will reveal what the truth was. But that is for the hereafter. The point I'm trying to make is that in our approach to life, we are all the same. It is only when it comes to our approach to the unknown that we differ. Now back to finding. Here is something beautiful, something which floored me. وَتَاللَّهِ لَا آكِدَنَّ أَسْلَامَكُمْ بَعْدَ أَن تُوَلُّوا مُدْبِرِينَ. This is what Hazrat Ibrahim tells himself. He's making this plan with the idols. And he's telling himself, all right, guys, I have a plan for your idols. But look at something. An tuwallu mudbirin. The Quran could have simply said, an tazhabu. Okay. When you leave, I've got a plan for your idols. We know the meaning of tawallu is to turn away. Mudbirin is to show your back. It's like you're going to a hotel counter and you check out, then you are mudbirin. You've gone out into the world. Look what he's saying. This is him speaking to himself, but look what is held in the verse. That the idols are tended to, then one locks up the closet in which the idol is, or the temple or the shrine where the idols are. And mudbirin is an active participle, and he checks out and he walks into the godless world. Do you get my point? Okay? Not with Ibrahim's God. Read this. It's the same word. Tuwallu. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَسَمَّى وَجْهِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. There is no checking out from God. You don't go to the masjid and lock the door and be mudbirin from God. That is the essential difference between finding an idol and finding Allah. Allah is always there. We just lose sight, we are remiss, or we get sidetracked. To Allah belong the east and the west. Therefore, wherever you turn, and wherever we turn is that horizontal external plane. Assuredly there is the face of Allah. Truly Allah is infinite, forever completely knowing. Hazrat Ibrahim exposes the difference between the ceaseless quest for Allah and the physical ritual before an idol. One must live in a constant realization of the omnipresent God. One is never away from, and one can never depart from. There is no checking out, even when we have failed to find Him present with us. How are we doing time-wise?
We have another 5-7 minutes.
Okay, as if that wasn't enough. And I could go on and on and on. وَمَا كُنَّا غَائِبِينَ. And we shall recount to them with knowledge, and we are not ever absent. Are we getting a sense of what it means to find God present? Maybe some more. Remember this famous Hadith al-Qudsi where Hazrat Jibreel comes to Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he asks him 3 in some versions of the Hadith 4 questions. The questions was the questions, and there would be a question and an answer, but the questions were Mal Iman, Mal Islam, Mal Ihsan. And the Prophet replies, Al Imanu an tu'mina billahi wa malaikatihi wa rasuli wa liqaihi wa tu'mina bil basil akhir. Belief is to believe in Allah, His angels, His books, His apostles, and meeting with Him, and to believe in the resurrection. Al-Islam. Al-Islamu an ta'budallaha wa la tushrik bihi shay'a wa tuqima as-salata wa tutiya az-zakata al-mafruda wa tasuma Ramadan. Islam is to worship Allah and not worship anything besides Him, and to offer prayers perfectly. I'm taking the Sunnah.com translation. To pay the compulsory charity and to fast the month of Ramadan. Now here is the key. What is ihsan? Al-ihsanu an ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarahu. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. Ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you do not achieve this state of devotion, then take it for granted that Allah sees you. Is there any difference between ihsan and finding God present? We are never going to see God. God is not a physical being. As if you see Him or Allah sees you. It literally means find or deem Him present. Remember our slide of the planes we navigate, our horizontal and external plane? There is Iman. There is Islam. There is Ihsan. What is life's simple purpose? What is life's purpose? Simple. Very simple, with a very broad meaning. Find God always present in whatever you do and wherever you are. Why? Simple answer. Without finding the omnipresent, we live falsely. We are living like the mudbirin, checking out. And here is the beauty of our faith. How? Approach His invitation with ikhlas. He guides to and along His way. He is the guide. I'll get to it. And He knows best how to make it happen. You come with ikhlas. Leave the rest to Him. Now you see what Rumi meant? What you seek is seeking you. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلٍ وَرِيدٍ. I'm not even going to try and translate this beautiful verse. Jazakallah khair. Yes.
Thank you very much for very nice talk, very informational, very educational. For those of you who are new here, the Saeed Malik is the first man to start this construction of this project. Okay, and nobody was willing to come forward. I reached out to
Well,
Saeed Malik.
he drafted me.
I reached out to him 3 times. You better take the lead and start the construction. Alhamdulillah, he started, and this is where we are now. Okay. Now, so you have to explain a couple of things. It's very nice. Worship. Everywhere I see is worship word. And we said worship is not 5 times prayers and all those things. So,
Not just 5 times.
Yes. Worship is, that is a subset of worship. There's
yeah,
more
so
things
that's what
than
I'm
this.
saying, not just 5 times
Yeah.
prayers. What is worship? And then second, how do you show your gratitude? You should show gratitude to Allah, right? How do I show gratitude to Allah?
You know, that is a very profound and beautiful question, showing gratitude to Allah. Okay, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I know the answer to that, but because I always ask myself, if I was in Gaza today, what gratitude would I show? These are difficult questions. I have plenty to be grateful for, but I always remind myself that the Quran says that all prophets come for 2 reasons. One is Bushra, one is Nuzur. One is divine tidings, or some people call it glad tidings. Some people call it and Nuzur, which is warning. Okay? If you think about it, what is the glad tiding? The glad tiding is that this is not the end of you. That whatever good you are associated in this world, and by good I mean the good love, the love of your family, the love of your children, the love of your spouse, whatever is intrinsically good, God says, this will transcend. I'm not going to take it away from you. This is yours forever. And if you haven't had these good things in life, then the Quran says, well, this is only a passing phase. This is a snapshot in time. In the fullness of time, what I have for you is Salamun Qawlun min Rabbir Rahim. So that is the Bushra. The warning is that if you are remiss in finding Him present, then you jeopardize, then you squander all of this. So that to me is the gratitude part of it. Okay? That this is not the end of life. It continues. Nothing which is intrinsically of good value will ever be taken away from me. God is Khairul Warisin. Talking about that, Hazrat Zakaria was an old man. He asked for a child. And then he says, Va'anta Khairul Warisin. An old man knows that he's going to leave the child behind. But guess what he says? I'll find him. You are the Warisin. You are inheriting him for me. I'll find him there. So that is how but it is a challenge. But the important point is, in our case, remember this, if you are hard to find why to be grateful, then that means you haven't taken full measure of yourself. If you are happy where you are and with who you are, and I'm not talking about materiality, then you have reason to be grateful.
One of the slides shows Allah made ins and jinn for ibadah.
Yes.
So did Allah make ins and jinn only for ibadah, and dogs, cats and mosquitoes are not supposed to do ibadah?
Well, they are already in ibadat because they don't have a free will. We are sometimes not in ibadah because we have a free will. Everything else that is created without free will is in its constant tasbih. Yes, Tarin Sahib.
My understanding is of gratitude to Allah is apart from the five faraid, equally important was lying under this hadith you put about the food we ask, the drink, some. Most of us actually ignore that part of it. The bigger part of the ibadat or equal important ibadat, and we can't focus only on the five faraid, which is important, but the next,
Well,
which is there in the hadith.
one thing very important is, to me, this, remember I showed in the slide,
Yes.
that this plane is for you to be conscious of this plane. So the ibadah of Allah does sensitize you to your duties to mankind. Because after all, there's something very important for a Muslim. We say, Qul huwallahu ahad is this surah is 1/3 of the Quran. Okay? Why is it 1/3 of the Quran? Because I, as a Muslim, whether I'm dealing with a Sikh or a mushrik or whoever, he may not know that there is one Rabb, but I know there is one Rabb. I know they are all creatures of that Rabb. That places an incumbency and obligation on me to reach out to them for the face of God. Because I know, Qul huwallahu ahad. They may not know.
And that is gratitude to God.
That is gratitude to
That's
God.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Actually, I will be considered partial if I go to you, so to Ali.
What is the journey from Nafsul Amara to Nafsul Mutmainna?
You remember those two boxes that I showed you?
Okay.
I can do this. Again, these are all very subjective. No one has a claim to understanding ghaib or the complexities of it. We reconcile it our own ways. To me, trying to get into the green box, your nafsul lawama will get you there, and depending upon where you are in your pursuits is your nafsul mutmainna. Remember I said these are not milestones. They are a process. They are pursuits. Rumi says somewhere, and coming to nafsul mutmainna, he says, this man gives what he has to others. So what does he do? What does he have to do with stealing? Ali gives to others. What does stealing and Ali have to do with each other? Okay. He says this man, he doesn't eat for the entire year. What is the requirement of Ramadan for him? In other words, he has gone beyond that state where that law, he's beyond that law, he's beyond that requirement. That is nafsul mutmainna. There is no conflict anymore. There is no falling short anymore. The law doesn't even apply to you. Sheikh.
Yeah. MashaAllah, the very rich subject and slides. Every slide needs a special event, actually, and too many questions on every slide. So, first question I have is about the same slide you are putting here. The right and the wrong. how would you, I mean, if you present this presentation to Christians or to non-Muslims, how would you approach it the same way that this is actually what Allah wants to tell you or what you want to do to get there? I mean, not always we have to, let's say, I don't believe in Islam. How would I do that? How would I accept it? My second question is, in the slides where you have the vertical and the horizontal, if you go to the last slide, last one.
Which is oversimplistic, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah, the last one of the vertical and horizontal
Yeah.
thing. How would you consider that Ibrahim, Musa, Hawariyun, Pharaoh, Muslims? They say we are Muslims. So wouldn't you consider switching the Iman down and Islam up to make those? So that's my two questions for you.
The last one is easy. Yes, depending. Remember, I said this is something from a moving train. So ask me at the next station. I'm going to switch these two.
Okay.
So these things are so subjective. When I looked at the hadith, this one here, that is how I arranged it.
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
should have the verse.
Yeah.
We don't want to do the other. But I mean, considering, every prophet, I mean, Noah is Muslim, Ibrahim, wana awwal Muslim.
Which is,
And the Pharaoh, and I am from the Muslimin, and the Hawariyun, wa inna Muslimun. So all those, they talk about Islam, 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 which has nothing to do with the practice that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came up with. So wouldn't you consider this up and down? I mean, switching them. That's the point. The first point is, how would you present this to non-Muslim and tell them, here is the right and wrong? Because right and wrong is some relative action, not absolute.
I am saying that think about this. There is not much difference between us as to what is right and wrong in our lives. Okay? Secular laws are pretty decent. Now, whether they are enforcing those laws or does the law apply to them, that's a different debate.
Yeah, the difference is in the unknown.
The difference is in the unknown. So that is the slack we should give each other. I tell myself, well, everyone has a concept of accountability. Even the Hindus, when they have their reincarnation, they have a concept of accountability. So I tell myself, all right, he is believing this, that's part of the unknown. I'm believing this, that's really an unknown too. It is my faith, that is his faith. But I can, on the horizontal plane, he is my green fields of Ehsan. Okay.
So, in one of your slides, you mentioned that you seek God and God seeks you. So, if I look back at some of the history, especially from India, most of the saints and stuff, like take for example Buddha, he sort of gave up everything, went to the forest seeking God, and he sort of found an answer. Is that the right way? Can we assume that we found the right way, or is there any directions of what we
Prophet Muhammad used to go to Ghar-e Hira in solitude and meditation. That's where he found the Wahi. Meditation, okay, wherever you turn is I love this picture, by the way. This picture is from my book. Nature is God's manifestation. Okay? And nature draws you, if you are out in the desert or if you are out in nature, you are connected to God. There is this spiritual connection. So going on retreats, getting away from the city, the buzz of the city, being in solitude, that will connect you to what other people will say the higher power. And when I went to Alaska, I took a hike. It was spiritually rejuvenating for me. I can't even describe the feeling. Did I answer your question?
One thing actually.
Did I answer your question, Akeem?
Yeah,
I think
but
that-
I'm just trying to relate to how do you so comprehend that with what Quran says? Like, is there any sort of thing which we can relate to and say, even those people were on the right way, or were they being?
Can I say something here? Okay.
Let me first get to Hamid Saab, then you answer.
Mashallah. So my understanding is from the Buddhas, so he is taking just one aspect of the, mashallah, first of all, very well presented and very well written. So on the Buddha's questions, there is just one aspect. He is finding God, and the other aspect which brother mentioned in many slides, is the servitude. So he is away from that part, so living with your human beings and serving them. So he presented, mashallah, very well hadith at the end. So I was surprised to know that the same thing is in other religions also. When God says that I was hungry and you did not feed me, and so by going the path of Buddha, you are departing from the second very important function of your creation, which is the servitude of the human beings, living with them and behaving like in the best manners. So I think that's my, and on the other, so you have very well started with this point that the death is the gateway to the life. Means death reminds you the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the ikhlas, and then the servitude. So the whole purpose, one of the main purpose is the servitude of the rest of the human beings. MashaAllah, very well written.
Go ahead, Nazeer.
Actually, exactly what Hamid Bhai was saying in response to Akil. So, yeah, Buddha, maybe he found his God, but the people who followed him, they didn't follow the exact thing that he found.
There is another thing about Buddha. His discovery was that I want to find the middle path. That is the conclusion that he came to. He gave up everything, and then he said that was wrong, and the word is middle path, okay? That I want to get a balanced life. So he does get to a balanced life.
But Buddha's case was he fought a war, killed many and changed. I'm talking of rishis. See, rishis choose to just rishidom, in Kashmir. Lot of rishis.
The
They just
rich
leave-
type people, you mean?
Yeah, they're
Yes.
Vaishnavas.
It's the same, Rishi Muni.
Yeah.
Rishimuni. They just leave the world and walk away.
Yeah.
Because I just took the example of Buddha, but Hinduism says that give up the worldly life, go to your, what do you say?
To me, the crux between one omnipresent God and anything else is that ayah from the Quran, Tuwallu mudbirin, that you have the option to check out. With Allah and the Supreme Being, there is no option to check out. That, to me, is the essential difference. And I love that I don't ever check out, because there are moments when I'm down, I want Him to be with me. Harun.
So the people live their lives, 24/7, and someday they're from the list that we have between the top portion and the bottom portion. And they, a lot of times, people make decisions, their thoughts, words, actions, based on certain things, right? Their conditioning, their environment, their upbringing, education, all that, or their impulses. I'm assuming, Saeed Bhai, that the purpose of life, if we are able to figure that out, will drive our thoughts and decision-making and actions and words. So it kind of becomes like your guiding, light to whether I should get up in the morning or I should keep sleeping, whether I should go to a party or I should stay home, whether I should pursue a degree or I should, go to work, whether I should, hit somebody or not. All of that are decisions we make every day, and that defines us, our future, and people around us. So I'm assuming, so what I heard from you is that finding God present is in what you do. I'm also looking for guidance and in deciding what I do based on my purpose. Sometimes, I'll just pause.
I'm going to say, finding God present in your thoughts, when you're thinking, when you're contemplating, what am I to do? This is what I plan to do this morning. Include God in it, find Him present. That I'm about to lie in a transaction, let me find God present. When I'm about to cheat, let me find God present. It is not to do the right thing, it is also to prevent me from the pitfalls. It is to inoculate me from doing the wrong thing. And the nafsul amara, your instinct, is always about I, me, and mine. Taqwa is about restraining yourself mostly, but with the consciousness of God. And it takes a perfect human being to fully get rid of the I, me, and mine. It never happens. But to me, the important point is to find God when you're alone in your thought, when you include Him in. You have a motivation, put God in there. Why are you motivated to do this? Refine that motivation. That is purification of the heart, the mindset, whatever you want to call it. Munish.
I'm glad that I'm here today, very much, and I have no question because your whole thing is way more than above my head. So I'm glad that I'm here just to see what's, I can have some understanding of what you're saying.
Well, Khalil Gibran, and I'm going to paraphrase, he says, I say so much so that this much may get to you.
Exactly.
So if out of this got to you, alhamdulillah. Khairuddin.
Thank you. That was amazing presentation. I really learned a lot from it. The one thing I just want to share is the way that I find personally, when you say finding God present, to me, the experience of the best things, right? The experience of being a good finder,
Yes.
is the way.
And the word is experience. You can't, remember I said you can't outsource any of this.
Yeah. So trying to really just find, when you find the good in everything, to me, that's when you're really present with God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the word is good, a good finder or a finder of good.
Good finder of good.
Yeah.
Words fail you when you think some thoughts. So,
God.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.